Welcome to Story Chats at Inspy Romance. I'm Elizabeth Maddrey, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
I'm Valerie Comer.
We've got Tabitha Bouldin joining us today. Tabitha has a bachelor's degree in creative writing and English from Southern New Hampshire University. She's a member of the ACFW and has been writing since 2015. When she's not homeschooling her kids, you'll find her curled up with a book. Tabitha's genre of choice is contemporary Christian romance, which she describes as adventure with heart. Thank you for joining us, Tabitha.
Thank you for having me here.
So today we're talking about second chance romance. And what was it, or is it, about second chance romance that had you wanting to join us today?
I think it's the fact that second chance romance is one of those things where most of the time the characters think that love has passed them by for whatever reason or for whatever situation they've been in. You know, the past is in the past and they're ready to forget about love and just move on with life and do something else. And then they get smacked upside the head with the perfect ever, happily ever after. So I think that's just what really drew me into this one.
I like it. Yeah. So you touched on a little bit, but we'll get everybody's input. Where does second chance romance fall on your ranked list of tropes? So like if you were thinking through tropes and you have your favorite up here, or is it a favorite, something you're just okay with, something you seek out or avoid? Narelle, what about you?
It's definitely a favorite. I really enjoy second chance romances and the reunion aspect of that. And there's always just so much depth of emotion and history to sort of plunge into as well with these stories. So it can be hard in a short book, for example, when you are looking at novella length to actually develop a full romance. But if it is a second chance trope that's being used, then you've already got that history to build on. So I think it works particularly well in shorter length books, this particular trope.
Sure. Tabitha, what do you think?
It's not something that I seek out on purpose, but then whenever I actually find out that it's second chance romance, I'm like, ooh, give me, I must have it now.
Okay. Valerie?
I think it's one of the more common tropes in contemporary romance. There's so many ways that you can do it, and
No, don't skip ahead. No, go. You can finish your thought, but don't go into the ways because that's next.
I'm done for now.
Sorry. You don't seek it out, but you like it because it's common.
Yeah. And
okay.
and I write a lot of it because it just seems to come easily.
Yeah. I would say that I would never consciously say it was a favorite for me, but I always enjoy it when I do get there. And I'm like, maybe I ought to say it's a favorite, but I don't think of it as, oh, I have to find one. But then I'm always pleasantly surprised when I do. So, so all the different ways that you can do second chance romances, as Valerie alluded to, there's just so many options because you've got the couple that was together when they were young and now they're getting back together when they're after some space of time, which could be, just like they were high school sweethearts and now it's after college. So it's, a few years, or it could be like they were college sweethearts and now they're in their 50s or whatever. And so that you've got that sort of aspect. You've got a second chance where a divorced couple gets back together. You've got then also sort of the second chance at love or second time around, which I think also qualifies as second chance romance, where you're getting a second chance at love because you're widowed or you're a widower or a divorcee, and you end up embarking on a new relationship. So Valerie shook her head violently with that one. So maybe Tabitha, what do you think? Am I off base? Do you think that counts as second chance, or do you not?
I think it does. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Narelle?
Well, I obviously have a very broad definition of second chance because I thought Valerie's book, The Cowboys Mixed Up Matchmaker, was a second chance romance. So when I looked at it, it's actually not. But it's close. But that was because they had a pact that if they were both single or 30, they would get together. And that's not second chances, because they didn't actually get together in the first place,
Right.
to actually have that new relationship. So I think for me, a second chance, you need to have had some kind of romantic interaction or get close to romance for it to actually count as with that second chance. It has to be
With the
first
same
time.
with the same person?
Yeah, with the same
Okay.
person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Valerie, justification. We're 2-2 here. We're evenly split.
So there's going to be one other way to look at that. Second time around, to me, is a completely different trope to second chance romance. Second chance means that these two people have a second chance to get together.
Okay.
And second time around would be your widow, divorcee with someone other than the person that they had once been married to.
Having a second chance at love.
Exactly. Yeah. As it says.
So yeah.
But as far as what second chance, I think there, some of the ones that I've read have been kind of like, they were kind of ships in the night back in high school or college or whenever. She liked him, he liked her, but for some reason they were not together. So this is a second chance for them to get together. So to me, they don't have to have had a past relationship, although if they just attended the same school but never hung out in the same group, that's not second chance.
Okay.
But if there was some attraction, whether or not they actually connected back then, I'd go with a second chance. But yeah, second chance has to be with the same person. I'm sorry, it just has to be.
See, because I would never, ever, ever say that an unrequited turns into second chance, ever. It was unrequited love in high school. They had this attraction that they never acted on, and now they get together. That's not a second chance. That's their first.
Sure it is. It's a second chance to make a connection with that person.
They never got together. It's not a second chance.
It's a second chance to get together for the first time.
Well, I always think of second chances as I would always call it a reunion romance. So to me, what we're talking about is there was a relationship or with the same person of some description. So yeah, you can't have a second chance unless it's with the original person. There has to be a first something.
So
I can be a bit loosey-goosey in terms of how I define that first encounter, as long as they connected. Looking across each other the whole way in high school, to me, doesn't count.
Okay.
That's a different trope. But
yes, it is.
They have to have some kind of a friend, at least a friendship, at least be talking to each other, and at least one of them must have liked the other one for it to count. But they have to be on each other's radar.
But again,
definitely.
They have to have had a relationship, not friendship. They have to have been romantically involved, even if it was like one dance or something, not just friendship, not unrequited love, because those are all different things. So maybe second chance romance, if we think about like our animal kingdom, like you've got mammals, right? That's your second chance romance. And then you've got your split off reunion romance is that phylum? I'm really bad with my animal kingdom.
I have no idea where you're going with this.
You know what I'm saying? Like second chance romance is a subsection. Second chance romance is the big tall one, and then you got reunion romance is one option, and then like second time around is another option, but unrequited love is not one of those options. It's up there with second chance romance on the same level.
As is second time around. Tabitha, jump in. Tell us what you think.
I'm thinking I've been considering this too broad of a term for all this time, because all of the ones I keep thinking of, it's like they're over here. I had always, okay, for example, you were talking about the, my words just left.
It's okay.
The reunion romance, where like they were friends in high school, but not really romantically involved. One liked the other, maybe a little more than the other. So a bit of unrequited love in there, but then they meet later on in life, and it's in that little bitty niche where I consider it to also be second chance romance, because they did know each other before. But yeah, so I'm learning a lot. I'm just listening.
We
You're
are
learning how
We're not
opinionated we are.
learning.
Yeah.
We're not an authority here. We're just four people with opinions. So
Yeah. And
So
every
does that
opinion is
mean that-
valid.
yes.
Does that mean that we pick up a second chance romance? And if, like, a lot of books will get labeled with the tropes
Mhm.
in CCR, they'll say it's a second chances romance. Does that mean that you guys are sometimes disappointed because what you think of as a second chance in what's the book description has isn't actually what's in the story?
If I picked up something billed as a second chance and they had never dated in the past, or it was not second time around, like where they were widowed or something like that, then I would be really angry. Yeah. Because to me, that's misleading. It's not a second chance to me. I'd probably still read it and enjoy it, but I'd be like, this person doesn't know what a trope is. So
I would say that the book description probably would clear that up. Even though it said second chance romance, if the description doesn't hint at their past relationship, then I'd be like, really? Where's that in there?
yeah. I agree. Would you be let down, Tabitha, or are you just all in because it could still be cool?
I'm pretty much just all in, but yeah.
Okay. All right. That's fair. All right. So this should be fun because it'll be fun to see what books we chose. Like I chose from each of my different ones. I have a book from each of my different ways to define this. So we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah.
Because there are a ton, Valerie touched on that, of second chance romances out there. It is one. And I think Narelle hit a good point as people try to write shorter for whatever reason. If there is a need to write shorter, having that history of some sort is helpful, can be for sure. So we will go through and talk books. Tabitha, what's your first book?
See, I'm already going to jump off the train here.
That's okay.
One that I always liked was Chloe Flanagan. She wrote one in the Potter's House series, I think a couple of years ago, and it's Where Do They All Belong?
Mhm.
And it's a bit of a road trip romance, but it's also a widower, and they're both in their 50s.
Okay.
So the main character, Darla, I think she had been in love before, but ships in the night sort of situation, but it was with a different man. It wasn't with this man
Mhm.
that she runs into later on in life. So when they get together in this one, to me, it's a little bit of a broader second chance romance, but I still enjoyed it as that.
You and I agree that it's second
Yeah.
chance romance. Valerie and Narelle don't, but that's okay. That's okay. That sounds fun. I haven't.
It can still be a great book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a different trope.
I like
Yeah.
seeing the older. We did an episode on the mature rather than older heroes and heroines. And I like the trend that we're seeing more of those.
Yeah.
Those are nice. Narelle, what's your first?
Well, the first one I thought of is the one I'll talk about first, which is So You Want a Second Chance by Elizabeth Maddrey, who no one has ever
I've
heard
read
of
that
before.
one.
And so that's the first one in her billionaire series, and it's the character, the hero and heroine are both in their 50s, and Joe is has a very successful company, and I love the setup of this book. So they were friends and who had a relationship in college, and they both were very ambitious. So she went into the medical profession. He wanted to build his empire, and so they split up in college, and then they meet again when she's back in his neck of the woods. I'm trying to think, it's DC, isn't it? Washington, DC. Yeah. And he has a heart attack, and she is the heart surgeon that has him on the table that's fixing him up. I just love the setup for that book. And it's such a fun series. If you haven't read Elizabeth Billionaire series, go read it. But that is definitely a second chance book. That's not a misleading description.
No.
Just to clarify.
By any description.
I got it right.
Bullseye, right in the
Yay.
middle.
Yeah. So that's a good one. That was the first one. I've got a list.
Well, excellent. Valerie, what's first on your list?
I'm going to go with I Still Do by Melanie Snitker. And it's a divorced couple who've been split up for, I want to say 2-3 years. I can't remember exactly because it's been a while since I've read it, but I love the premise of it and loved the interaction between the hero and the heroine as they confront what had split them up in the first place, which obviously they had never really dealt with in the past. So that's a reunion in a marriage, and it was pretty cool. I haven't read that many divorced couples getting back together. I think it maybe doesn't happen really often in real life. I could be wrong, but I enjoyed that one.
I think it probably doesn't happen a lot because there's an element of there's a reason that you're willing to go all the way through the horror of divorce, right? I mean, generally speaking, people don't just get divorced willy-nilly because they felt off on Thursday. You know, there's usually long-standing
It was at least
trouble.
from Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe even Monday. But so yeah, I think, although I mean, I know in our church we've been going to our church 12 years, 13 years, somewhere in there. And we've had 2 different couples get remarried to each other in that time. So, I mean, it does happen, and it is lovely to see God restore that sort of situation. But I don't think it's super common usually.
Yeah.
All right. So my first book was The Wedding List by Autumn Macarthur.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And it's an older one, but I think it might be, well, it's the first book I read of hers, so it has a very special Autumn place in my heart. It's like when I think of Autumn, I think of her Love in Store series, it's particular this one. And this is a true, according to all of us, second chance, because they were Beth, it's her first love, who comes rushing into her department store where she looking for a wedding gift. And also then it ends up where he needs also a +1. And he's like, oh my goodness, I know you. You could be my +1. And she's just kind of like, what now? So I loved watching them come back together because they too had a lot of stuff that needed to be worked through. And they did. It wasn't one, sometimes with Second Chance, I will say, sometimes it's like they just gloss over the reason that they broke up in the first place. And that always drives me mad because I'm like, there was a reason that you two didn't work out to start out with. And you have to at least address it a little, you know,
Because otherwise you're going to be going separate ways again shortly.
Yeah. Because that reason, if it hasn't changed, and your willingness to accept that hasn't changed, then yeah, there's no future after I hit the last page here. So, but that I really enjoyed the way that Autumn brought them back together in that one. All right, Tabitha, do you have a second?
I do. And again, I'm going to throw us off the train tracks.
Do it.
It's Is It Any Wonder by Courtney Walsh.
Oh yeah.
And the reason I picked that one is because Louisa and Cody, you know, they had such a close friendship whenever they were in high school and everything, and they made that pact. And I know Narelle mentioned one earlier that was similar. They made that pact that when they turned 30, they would meet again, and that it just so happened that they were back and they met up. And of course, you know, Louisa is ticked at Cody, and they end up having this big row with each other through most of the book. But to me, it was a second chance because they did have such a close relationship throughout high school and before they left for college and everything. And you could tell that the tension was there, that they both maybe wanted a relationship back then, but then they went their separate ways when their families started arguing with each other and everything, and they separated because of that. So to me, that was what made it second chance, is that they were so close through those growing up years.
That's fair. That's a good book.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
As if you that's one off my list. That's good. My list is getting shorter.
All right. Well, other than that one, Narelle, what's next on your list?
What will I go with next? I think I will go to Secretly Yours by Valerie Comer, because Valerie has heaps of books. I'm like, which one? I've got to pick one from
I do
Valerie
have
this
heaps.
week. And Secretly Yours is the first book in her Riverbend novella series. And it's set in British Columbia in Canada, which is fun as well. And so Lindsay has lost her mum, and she moves back to Riverbend to help her stepfather with her, to care for her stepsister. And I do like redeemed bad boy stories. So I really like the hero in this book, because he's now Pastor Nick, and he's been redeemed, and so he's a very different person to the person that she knew years ago. So that's one of probably that redeeming the bad boy or redeeming the heroine in a second chances is probably one of the fun twists that I really like. So that's why I brought this book up, because it's so fun, this series set in Riverbend. If you haven't read it, go read it.
Thank
I
you.
like the Riverbend novellas a lot too.
Yeah.
They're ones that I think people miss because they are novellas, and I know people have feelings about novellas, but don't write off novellas. They're fabulous.
Yeah.
Especially this time of year when it seems like our reading list is so long, you can knock those babies out in just an evening each.
Yep, absolutely. All right, what's your next one, Valerie?
All I've Waited For by Lindsay Harrel. And so this is one that you guys might not agree. I'm jumping off the train too, Tabitha. Ashley and Derek were very close, and there was a reason that they didn't connect a few years ago. They were kind of like warned off of each other, and they parted badly when things were just starting to look like they were gonna, I think she stood him up actually.
Oops.
Back then. So there was a connection, but never a full connection. So she has been waiting for him to come back. He's gone to France to learn about the workings of vineyards because his family has a vineyard.
Okay.
And she does not, when he comes back, she hears he's coming back, and she's so excited because they're going to get together. They're more mature now, and they're going to deal with all this. And she's working for a wedding planner, and then it turns out that their next client is Derek and his fiance.
Oops.
So she's fairly devastated. So yeah, this obviously leans into that love triangle area as well. But there is also very much a second chance element to it, in that they're both like going through what had happened back then, and what may or may not be happening between them, in the here and now. So that's that one.
All right. So my next one actually didn't make my list, but I just thought of it, and I was like, it would be an absolute shame if we didn't mention this one, which it might be on Narelle's list. So I might be snaking off your list here, but Love and Other Mistakes by Jessica Kate is a fabulous second chance. And it's a true second chance. Like, they were together and then they broke up, and then do they get back together? Yes, they get back together.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. It's a romance. If they don't end up back together, there's a problem. But I really liked, it's got that redemption element that for this boy who is now a single father, and just all kinds of, it's messy. It's like super high. I have a low angst tolerance, and this exceeds it in several places. There were places where I skipped ahead to see that we could get through whatever this obstacle was, and then I'd go back and read it once I saw that, yes, okay, I'm going to be able to breathe, and they're not going to mess it up too badly.
Breathing's good.
Yeah,
I recommend breathing.
I don't love the books that are like, I read to relax, not to chew my fingernails and get irritated at the people in my book. So this was teetering on the edge of too much for me, but it's worthwhile. It's still worth the read and the perseverance, because watching them, they both are also really coming into their own and who they truly are, and getting to really sort of figure out where God is putting them, and how that contrasts to what they thought was their path in life versus what God really wants their path in life to be. So it's a really good story. It's a really good story. If we go fast, we can do a third one. Tabitha?
I actually don't think I have a third one. I was thinking The Secrets of Paper and Ink, but didn't that have the divorced couple in it who reconnected? Or am I thinking of something else?
No, they were high school friends, right?
Mhm.
But I don't think they ever, I don't know. I remember really enjoying that book.
Yeah.
I remember that as well, but I couldn't tell
Yeah.
you what it's about.
Yeah.
It's a great book, and it's definitely a second chance. It qualifies, but it's been so long since I've read it. That's about as far as I can go.
Mhm. We'll all have to reread it at some point.
Definitely. Narelle, do you have a third?
Well, I'm just going to mention two. I just want to add to Love and Other Mistakes, which is on my list. You've actually helped me. You've cut my list down, everybody.
Phew.
Very good. You all get gold stars today. What I really liked about Love and Other Mistakes is that it was the second chances with the enemies to love trope, the I hate you trope. And I think that's also a really fun twist on second chances. So that something has horribly gone wrong in the past. And I mean, Jem was Natalie's ex-fiance, and they have all this baggage that they have to somehow get through, because being in a romance, they've got forced proximity with what ends up happening. She ends up babysitting his little boy, there's a baby, and all that kind of thing. So that was really fun and definitely one to read. And the next one I'll mention, I'll stop at this one, is Remember Me by Marion Ueckermann. And that's the first book in the Chapel Cove series. And in this book, you've got the first three books are three best friends from high school who made a pact. They put treasure on they've got a shared birthday, and they put treasure into and buried this treasure box. And they are all back in Chapel Cove around the time of their 40th birthday. So the series is Love Begins at 40. And this one is really fun. So Clarice, who's known as Reese in the book, and Heath were together when they were in high school, and then she left to become a supermodel and ended up marrying, I think, her agent, and had this very glamorous life that he watched from afar. So there was that unrequited love element through it. And in the time since she left, he became a Christian and then has become a pastor. And then her life falls apart, and she ends up divorced with no money, back in Chapel Cove, and he's there as the youth pastor. So it's a really beautiful story of redemption that really digs deep into the emotions of what's actually happened in their lives. And that's an aspect I really like about the second chances, is because they have some kind of shared history, you can really dive deep into their character and what's actually going on. So that's one of my favorites. I'm glad I had time to mention it.
For sure. All right, Valerie?
I'm going to jump in with Longing for Lily by Tara Grace Ericson. Is that off your list, Beth?
No, I honestly didn't put it on my list because I'm like, I'm pretty sure Valerie will mention this one.
That's funny.
So I'm gonna just not.
It's another wedding planner, which is kind of funny because it seems to be the day for that. But in this case, Lily is the wedding planner and Josh is a wedding photographer. So it's not that she's planning his wedding. Man, can you just imagine that? Anyway, so she's got a venue and she's working through that, and he is the most popular wedding photographer in the area. And so they make an agreement that he will photograph the weddings that take place at her venue. But really, she's harboring a big secret, and she doesn't want to let him come close. And he keeps trying because he's this jovial guy next door who's they've had something in the past, and he doesn't know why it all fell apart, and he just keeps trying, like, I don't know, like a puppy. It's just a big gangling puppy that just keeps showing up, and she keeps pushing him away. So this second chance is hard won, I would say, but it's a great story.
Yeah. I like the fact in that one that Josh is the one who, like, I feel like in so many second chances, they're either both equally interested or she does more of the pursuing, but in this one, she is like absolutely opposed to a second chance. Like there is no way on the planet Earth that second chance is happening. And you don't see that super often. If there's a big no way, it's usually the guy who's like, no, she was crazy. I liked the fact that it was the other way around in Longing for Lily. So, all right. So my final one is Stay With Me by Hannah Jo Abbott. And it actually is they're still actually married, but on the brink of divorce. So it's a saving your marriage, falling in love again, second chance, which is not usually my cup of tea because like marriage drama hurts my heart so badly that I can't read it. It just hurts too much. This one is so well done that I found myself not even feeling like I was trying to push through it, but wanting to like just really rooting for them to figure it out. And so I do know like you see people looking for married romance. And that's one that it's harder to find that, but that's one that's really good.
Cool.
So, yeah. All right, now we're overtime. That's okay.
These things happen.
Tabitha?
That could never happen when you're talking about books.
Yeah, talking about books is always a short conversation. We're so glad you joined us. Tell everyone where they can find you and your books, Tabitha.
Most everything is on my website, and that's just tabithabouldin.com. And it has all my social media links and links to all my books and what's coming out and all of that. So
excellent. And you didn't say in your tell me where your accent is from, even if that's not where you live now. I know it's the South, but where in the South are you?
It's not from Hampshire, that's for sure.
No.
No, Tennessee.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Very good. I wasn't place. I'm more familiar. Like I'm in Northern Virginia. So I hit the coastal North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, I can usually pick out, but Tennessee, that's why I was like, it's not one of those three. So
I'm terrible with accents, but people are always asking where mine is from. So yeah, I was surprised it took that long.
Excellent. Well, we're really, really glad you joined us. And everyone else, we're glad you joined us too. Thank you so much for joining us at Story Chats. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We have some controversial issues that we discussed today about the actual definition of second chance romance. So let us know your thoughts. You're on team Valerie Narelle or team Elizabeth Tabitha. Leave us a comment either on the YouTube channel or on the Story Chats Facebook page. You can find information about the podcast at inspyromance.com/storychats. And if you are over on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe and the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week. And in the meantime, don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.